All right, we're here with Alex Bon Enfant, because he's a good child. And we are at Dreamhouse, right? Is that called, what's the full name of it? Dreamhouse Studios?
Dreamhouse Studios, yeah.
Somebody told me there's been some pretty big names coming in and out of here. Are you allowed to say some of those names?
Yeah, sure. Over the years, it's been, 8 years now,
yeah.
So everybody from The Weeknd and Mats, Daniel Caesar, Jesse Reyes, July Talk.
That's great.
Yeah, it's
That's awesome.
A laundry list of people coming through over the years.
We're here in downtown Toronto. I didn't realize how downtown we are. Like, you have a really good central location.
Yeah, we got really fortunate. My partners found it. We were looking for a place. They had been evicted from their house, and I just left working at the Orange Lounge and started going freelance, and needed a place to work. Kind of ran its course working at home. So we kind of jointly looked, and they found this place, and sort of came to pass that we needed a place to live and work, which didn't really work out.
Right.
Like, us all being here, living here, rooms with no windows is a fucking disaster. So we ended up
save money though.
Yeah, sort of. It lasted about 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah. So we ended up moving out and just sort of leaving it as a workspace and inviting other people in the community to take over what were our bedrooms and turn them into sort of production suites, so to speak, which are in the back that you'll see later. Yeah.
Nice. Well, would probably explain the bathtub.
Yeah, well, it was.
Figure that out.
Oh yeah, the history of it. When we came to see it, it was like some guy, some Bay Street guy who like wanted to do a tech startup, kind of like a EDM beat hub kind of thing. But he kind of ran out of whatever seed capital he had and was parting it out. But 6 months before it, he'd taken over a lease from a lady who'd been here for 15 years, was running it as just her art studio.
Oh, cool.
It looked nothing like its present state, but it was pretty neat.
Oh, that's cool. Well, it is a great location. Speaking of the bathtub, have you done any engineering back there, thrown an amp in there or anything? Or?
I've not. Maybe Calvin. You could ask Calvin about it. Maybe he's done it, or one of the other engineers have maybe used it.
What was this like when you came in here then, or after you decided to turn it into from a bedroom into a live room? Specifically this room we're in now.
This room's gone through a lot of reform. Like the barn board that's here, that didn't go in till 4 to 5 years after we'd been in the space.
The floors are original?
Floors are original. The first session I did was a jazz trio in here when we were wiring right up to the session. Until the start of the session, and recorded a jazz trio, and it sounded terrible.
Oh yeah.
So this stairwell that's behind you off frame, I came in with a 2x4 because I didn't have a sledgehammer, and I started smashing apart the walls and the ceiling with a 2x4 because I was so frustrated with the
What was the problem? Was it so dead, or?
Well, it's like these are, it's a cinder block walls all around it, which were plastered over, which is super reflective and kind of harsh vibes. So I chipped off most of the plaster that was on top of the cinder block to try to make it a bit more porous and opened up the ceiling so it wasn't a big flat drywall surface. The dimensions, it's not a very high ceiling, so kind of give it a little bit more height and opened it up, kind of acts as a diffuser, so to speak, because it's got the soft porous sort of wood vibes in it. But yeah, I tore down the wall, and then a couple years later, Adrian, my partner, put in the barn board, and it's kind of, I think the panels were hung a couple years later, so it's been kind of an evolution in terms of tuning the room and figuring out how to make it sound good.
Well, there is a sound, like you can hear sound moving, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like it's really echoey or really loud in here. What is the ideal shape or size? Because I was just thinking about this last night, because I'm in my personal space is in an attic in my house, and I just thought it's low ceilings, and I put up all of these like baffles, and then I tons of carpet, and I think I've gotten to the point where I've just totally choked everything out.
Well, that's the thing, for some people, choked out. I guess it started as a super open, kind of harsh, tanky sounding room, and over the years we've tried to do the same thing, is kind of mellow it out and gain a little bit control over some of the reflections in the room.
But you still want the reflections.
There's something charming about a room having its own character and not totally making a carpet factory and having everything, absorption everywhere. But it's got its own character, and as stuff doesn't work, it's been adaptive. And I think maybe as my style's changed, the people who have worked here have changed. The room's kind of been tailored to suit our needs and what we're after, but it's all the way imperfect. Part of it is making people feel comfortable, aesthetic and vibe, and the rest of it, people are spending long hours here being creative, so you want a kind of disarming environment.
Totally.
And I think that's kind of the charm of this place is, it's a bit ragtag, maybe, so to speak,
It's great.
It's got its charm, but it kind of feels like you've entered somebody's loft. You know, like it's
exactly.
not. There's no clock on the wall. There's no, urinal mats with the studio name on it. None of that shit that, like, frankly, I hate as a vibe kill. So,
well, one of the things that I've noticed visiting a lot of studios is a lot of the gear is the same amongst studios, but the vibe is different.
Yeah, I think there's token pieces that
of course, but
desirable stuff people want to see.
Where you really can separate yourself is your location, and then how an artist feels being in here, how they feel creatively,
and the people.
And the people.
At the end of the day, the vibe and the comfort that you get in a place that you work is one thing, but people work with people.
Yeah.
Like, people make records, not rooms, not gear. So
So you've got a wall out here. We've got windows to the street, and I know there's trucks. One of those trucks is a tow truck, probably towing my illegally parked car right now. But you have delivery trucks, and then you have a school. Mm-hmm. How do you work with that?
You record it. You just capture those little children screaming their heads off at recess. They probably, those kids and the trucks and everything are probably in half the recordings.
You don't have to pay them, like.
No, there's no union fees, nothing. No performance royalties, nothing like that. It's just part of it. It's part of having that unique location or that prime location that you were talking about. Is it comes with certain, certain drawbacks and a little bit of street noise.
Cool.
It's what it is, but you just embrace it.
I'm all about that. I love that. Yeah. And you've done some cool things with the windows here, and those help with sound too.
An attempt to sort of block out, or I don't know, block out, but tame some of the street noise.
Right.
It does a great job. Yeah, like time of day sort of depends how trafficked it is.
Right.
The street itself isn't really that busy.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's been fine. This is something you've got. Two of them, right?
Yeah, there's
one over here.
One in the lounge.
Oh, one in the lounge. Yeah. This is something we've never seen at a studio. So congratulations. It's the very first wood
fireplace.
Stove. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a hangover from the previous owners, and there was actually radiant heat in here. There's two big radiators that we pulled out because they were kind of hissy and they made even more noise. They added to the noise floor that already exists.
Yeah, because this is really quiet.
Yeah, it runs really quiet. It's efficient. It fucks up our piano big time because it's kind of a binary thing. It's on or off. So there's a bit of a bit of climate change in this room.
Do you have those moisture chasers in there?
No, we probably should though.
Yeah.
We'll add it to the list.
Yeah. No, that is really cool, especially this time of year. It's brutal outside, and this is really nice.
Yeah, it's charming.
Exactly. It's a great vibe. It's a great place to make a Christmas record, I think.
Well, no, that'd be a first. I don't know. Have we done it? No, we did one Christmas song. Actually, you guys should use it for the video. Calvin, the house engineer, and Greg, they made a Christmas song one year, and it's beautiful.
That's great.
Maybe one of our finest works that we've done here.
Tell me about how you got into recording real quick. Can you take me back to the beginning?
It was just playing in high school bands and getting your first 4-track, probably like most kids grew up in the 80s and 90s where the limitations of recording technology were sort of fixed on having like a Tascam 422 or something like that you recorded your friends with, and just sort of a keen interest in that. Kind of parlayed it into a career somehow by virtue and fortune.
What was the jump from the Tascam to the computer? Do you remember that?
Probably Napster.
Do you remember when you started
recording technology?
Recording on a computer?
I remember
all Windows came with a recorder app, like with just a record button.
I think it was probably like I had it's called the VS2480, which was made by Roland, which is a 24-track digital hard disk recorder.
Oh, wow. With like a CD tray?
With a CD tray, so you could export and all that. Yeah, it was a cumbersome, shitty piece of technology that didn't sound good.
What year was that from? Like, what era was that?
1999 or maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, okay. I know the one you're talking about. Yeah. Okay.
It was
Did that work well?
No, it wasn't very functional. But at the time, I would say, laptop or laptop wouldn't have been a thing, but desktop-based recording was really expensive.
Right.
I think they had M boxes back then, and they were $1,500 or $2,000.
Yeah.
And the limitations and the track count and all the rest of it. Actually, you know what? I lied. I went to high school at a school not far from here called Central Tech, and they had I'd gone there for one semester exclusively to work in the recording program, and they had I guess what would have been an early version of Nuendo, which was literally a stereo track editor. Like there was
nice.
The software itself was pretty limited in terms of so a PC-based piece of shit.
I remember there was a free program called what is it called now? Shit. It turned into Adobe Audition.
I don't know.
Cool Edit Pro.
Right.
You remember that?
Yeah. This would have predated that just a bit.
And it was I think it was 4 tracks.
At the time?
At the time, it was 4 tracks, 4 digital tracks. You could bounce to an MP3.
Right.
But you could actually record something and then drag that on top of another track, and it would play both.
Fancy.
So it was like actually unlimited tracks.
That's pretty amazing.
Your Pentium could only handle so much.
Yeah, your Pentium 2. Yeah, I remember those days.
So you followed that along. How long did that Roland piece last for you?
I went to school. I went to a trade college. I guess OER is the name of the school in London, Ontario. Mm-hmm. They had a couple, I think at the time it was 001s and a couple M boxes, workstation stuff where, that's where I got my sort of, my first introduction to digital workstations, like computer-based digital workstations. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask you, when you're in school then, so we're talking the mid-2000s, is that right? Early 2000s?
Yeah, 2002, 2003, I think.
So at that point, the music industry was like booming.
Collapsing.
Okay.
This was behind Napster. Napster would have been like 1996.
If you're... No, I think, but the CD sales were still pretty huge in the early 2000s.
Yeah, I think it was starting to see a decline through that period.
Because I just wanted the reason I'm asking you is what was the job perspective looking like for you when you were starting in college?
I wish I would have had that train of thought or some perspective on it. I don't think I was thinking about jobs. I think I was just thinking about something that I was passionate about. And
that's good.
And, I was going to figure it out some way or another. And I think ultimately I wanted to work in sort of bigger commercial studios or not even bigger commercial studios, but a studio where I could record and make music with people. Yeah.
Did you intern somewhere after school?
Kind of fortunate. I called my roommate from college, and he told me that a studio called Cherry Beach Sound was looking for a house engineer. So I went there with a resume in hand, and as I walked in the door, they were like, you here for the interview? And I was like, yeah, sure, man, sounds great. And I bombed it and totally failed at the interview process, but hit it off with the engineer and the house engineer, and he said they were hiring somebody else when I called a couple days later, but to keep coming back and maybe there'd be an opportunity down the line. And I went back every Monday for about 9 months, and 9 months later he called me and he was like, the person we hired isn't working out, you can come work. So I kind of got to jump that step and not have to do an internship, so to speak. Yeah. It was pretty much unpaid like an internship, but I was, a resident engineer at the studio, helping a really wonderful and patient man named Anam Hack, who's the head engineer there still to this day.
Wow. What kind of stuff did you do?
I think our first session was a Richard Underhill session. He's a really renowned and respected Toronto-based sax player. Okay, cool. And I think that record, I can't remember the name of it, went on to win or be nominated for Juno for Best Jazz Recording that year. Oh, nice. I didn't know that till years later.
Did you get a credit on it?
I did, yeah, an assistant credit. Nice. That was kind of Anam's forte. He's really good as a capturing engineer, and he's really quite good at capturing jazz. I didn't know what was what. I was like watching him work, were you gobsmacked by the whole thing.
Grabbing cables for him, or were you?
That kind of thing. And he was a super patient guy. Like he walked me through. He'd come in early, so he could do his mic setup with me, but have a bit of extra time to go through all the steps of setting up for a session and all the rest of it. I spent about 2 years working, or a year and a half working with him. Yeah. And he was just amazing. He was a vacuum, or a sponge for knowledge, and was always willing to share it.
Now you're in that position. Do you think that can still be done today, where people can come here and follow you around as you set up mics, or is it harder these days?
No, I think that still happens. Yeah. I think you went to Union. I think those guys are doing a good job of giving people opportunities to cut their teeth. I think we've done that since day one here. Is try to be as inclusive and open with people as possible. Mm-hmm. And there's a number of great guys working here presently that are cutting their teeth and helping out on sessions and setting up and learning session etiquette and how to client relations and how to get through the day.
Well, and there's probably a lot of things I'm not really involved with the studios very much, but there's a lot of things that you probably can't learn on YouTube when you're talking about being a professional, being respectful, knowing when to talk, when not to. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've had examples of people seeking opportunity here that don't make the grade and don't end up here very long, and then other ones that work here for tenure and end up developing some clients and branching out on their own, or in our case, a couple of people here have even graduated to working for the studio and becoming, the resident engineer of the studio,
right?
Which I sort of relinquished those duties a couple years ago for them. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
Let's take a quick look around. Jay, can we keep going? We're going to go to the control room and sorry. Here.
I'm standing on you.
The wireless mics are way more money to rent, so
it's all good.
We're on a tight budget here. So this thing here, the Phil Collins.
The Yamaha CP70, yes.
I love this thing. This is beautiful. It sounds so good.
Yes, it does. We could open it up.
Now, I was talking to the engineer, Calvin, just a little bit earlier, but for recording this, you wouldn't mic it, would you? Is it too quiet for miking? Or?
You could mic it, yeah. I can't say that I have, but it is an acoustic piano. There's like the mechanics of the piano function in the same way as an acoustic piano, although it's an electric piano in the sense that it has pickups, much like a Rhodes or a Wurlitzer.
Right.
But acoustically, it's a hammer against a string.
And then mostly DI then.
DI, amplified.
Amps.
You can mic it acoustically, although there's probably timbrely maybe nicer sounding pianos out there for that kind of thing. But if you wanted something really metallic and janky and rugged sounding, it might float your boat.
Well, it's interesting. We're going to talk about the Junos, but like right now, 2018, as we're filming this, that kind of e-piano sound from the 80s is really popular right now.
It is a thing, yes.
So this is probably getting a little bit more use.
I'd like to say yes, but you'd have to ask Calvin.
Okay.
For my sessions, maybe not so much. I can't say that I've recorded it a lot, but
I love it. It's great. I like how big it is. Yeah, we saw one too at Gavin. Gavin Gardner, he's got one, and they had one at Pole's Boutique. I think they're great. I love how much space they take up. And
they take up a footprint. That's for sure.
Good for music videos.
Yeah.
And this is a reissue. Is that right? We saw
that is a reissue. Yeah, that was an impulse purchase a couple months ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why is that? Because they were stopping making them?
They stopped making them, and I happened to be in the local music store and asked them how many they had stocked, and there was few left in the country, and I've always sort of coveted one and wanted one. They're obviously. Their reputation precedes them, but I ended up taking it because they said they had 3, and I was like, oh, once those are gone, the price is going to go up, and they're going to be harder to come by. And
they do such a great job at releasing something for only a couple of years.
Yeah,
and I didn't even get a clear reason as to why they're stopping making them.
I don't know. Maybe they'll make something else in their series that.
I think they said they sold more than they were expecting to. That was the reason.
Right, flooding the market and devaluing them.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, it's kind of a good thing for
I think it's great.
enthusiasts, keyboard enthusiasts, or studio enthusiasts to have them out there because they're kind of they were limited. You'd see them and come across them, but the price point was a bit prohibitive. Even still, when they were reissuing them, they're still
$3 or $4 grand. I think. Yeah. So. And this gets used a lot?
Yeah, it's the newest edition. Yeah, it gets used a lot. I like it because there's obviously the keyboard functions and monophonic keyboard functions and all the rest of it, and I've used it extensively even as the external input. Just use the filter section or the noise section on processing audio. So
that's cool. Like what kind of stuff?
Vocals, snare drums, kick drums. Bass guitars, what have you, anything.
That's cool.
Anything where the famed Moog filter or Moog noise section can impact the audio in a way that helps the song.
Yeah. Oh man, they're beautiful.
Yeah, it's cool.
Arts too, and they're all handmade, and it's just so cool.
Yeah.
I love it. You got some. Speaking of the '80s, you got some Junos over here.
That's right.
You got a Juno 60 and a Juno 106. I've got to ask you the serious question. In the last 2 years, how often does an artist come in here and play the theme for Stranger Things? And do you have a little sign that says, please do not play?
Please do not play. It's like the Stairway to Heaven of the guitar store. It might have happened, But they get pulled out a lot.
What's the difference? I love them. They sound great. What's the difference between the 60 and the 106?
On a component level, I can't tell you. Some people would say that the 60 sounds fatter, which maybe I would agree with. Or warmer. The 106 has MIDI functions. You can get a mod for the 60, which we don't have, that allows MIDI functionality. But Yeah, kind of two different pigs.
So
But
this is a newer model, right?
Yeah, the Juno 60 would predate the 106.
Sure, okay.
But they, two different animals, two different instruments. It's like having two Stratocasters and saying that the same thing. They're obviously going to have their differences, but it comes down to taste. They both sound amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
A little glassier, a little warmer.
Yeah.
I guess.
Well, when Calvin was carrying this in, I just was shocked at how much wood is involved in this.
Pick it up. It's a pig.
So great. Yeah, I can't.
And people used to tour those things, I believe. Maybe that's why they went to the 106 and made them more plasticky and just lighter, a little more portable, a little more practical.
That was probably the era too, though. Plastic was seen as like the new wood. It was like a classier than wood.
Right, I guess
in the early '90s or whatever.
It's a damn shame because
That's crazy.
Look at this. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Cheap veneer, but it looks great.
It does. But they're still coming around too. I was looking at a Poly and these do pop up and they're still not crazy.
Yeah, well 10 years ago, I was fortunate. I got a pretty good deal on them, buying them from the previous owners at a time where they needed to off-put them or offload them and getting a pretty decent price on them. But I think in 10 years with the sort of comeback of a lot of those 80s sounds, they've doubled, tripled, quintupled in price.
I want somebody to do a chart that shows like the gradual price increase of these and then put on top of it the release date of Stranger Things.
Right.
And see.
Oh, the pre-post Stranger Things? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Cool. Well, this is a great room. We're going to go check out the control room, but I really love it. You got a Wurlitzer over here.
Yes, sir.
We've seen one of these Farfisas at Union. I think they have something similar.
I think they have a similar one. They run it through their Leslie. I've done some sessions there with Leon, and we got great results running theirs through their Leslie.
Said it's a reed sound, like a mellotron type of sound.
Reed organ, kind of knifey and nasally, and but finds its place in a mix really well due to its sort of limited bandwidth. Yeah. It's nice.
How important is it for you as a studio to offer these tools, especially tools that are really hard to come by or really expensive to bands, versus bands coming in here bringing in their own stuff?
Well, we're buying. Yeah, we've not had a drum kit since we opened, and we're buying one this week because that sort of speaks to the need to have things for people to come in and be able to use quality instruments. I think a lot of what we've purchased here has been more just our taste, or my taste specifically in what I like, and having those toys around at my disposal. But I guess there's probably a lot of people that share a similar taste or sensibility, and I try not to buy, or I'll buy esoteric stuff for myself and not, stuff that no one will use, because I kind of have the studio in the back of my head when making new purchases. Then, you want toys to get used. You want instruments to get used. You want recording equipment to get used by people who are going to appreciate it and make good music. Totally.
Well, I think it adds to what we were talking about earlier about the vibe, is that somebody comes in here and they're excited that they're going to be able to add, the Mini Moog to their sound, or they'll have some Junos, and I think it just gets them more excited to make a record.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, I guess, the toys do inform your art, and the ideas are first, but having some stuff that maybe you don't have in your rehearsal space, or, in your bedroom, or wherever you're creating your art or writing your songs, it's part of the inspiration of coming to a studio is having some extra tools at your disposal that you can help use. I
find so much too that there's always this argument of why buy a $2,000 Juno when you could probably get a MIDI patch for $50 or whatever. But there's this whole thing of that these instruments can really help you write a song that I don't think a MIDI controller can. There's history, there's inspiration on the wood and in the color. That's what I find. I think the real stuff is, even if the sound at the end of the day is like very close. I think having the real stuff is great.
Yeah, it's great. I don't think anyone here is a purist. Like, we still have the Arturio bundle that has some of this stuff involved, and and that stuff gets pulled out all the time. And occasionally you kind of A/B or look at the two options, and one takes precedence over the other. But ease of use as well. Like, these things are really immediate. There's knobs, and you can touch them, and they're tactile, and it feels creative. Versus sometimes maybe software, which is
thousands of presets.
Which is also fun because sometimes that's tactile. Sometimes you just want to like click the mouse button until something works and sits in your song, you know?
Sometimes you're like, I want 70s TV show theme song Saturday morning. And
there it is. Yeah. There it is. And that's a 3-hour wormhole on the Juno. You know, that's maybe a place where you don't come back from and you forget your idea because it's taking you so long to get the sound that you wanted.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Awesome. Well, let's check out the control room.
Cool.
Okay, so we're now in the control room, and this time we're with Calvin Hartwick, who is what's your title here?
The manager and house engineer.
So the man in charge here.
Yeah.
And we're in the control room, which is just as beautiful as the live room, a little bit smaller. We got a sofa back here, the desk, and the computer and the monitors. And then we want to talk about the racks. There's some really cool stuff, a lot of stuff we actually haven't seen before, so I'm kind of stoked to talk about it. Let's go right here to the creme, the Neve sidecar. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah, it's great. We when it was originally manufactured, I'm pretty sure it was used for a broadcast board, so a lot of vocals and whatnot. So a lot of the EQ is kind of tailored to that, which makes it really interesting when you have anything that's not a vocal going through it. You kind of got to play with it. And give you some options that.
So these are the frequencies here, 47, 82, is that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 47, 82, 820, 1.8.
Oh my goodness.
And, yeah, so it's cool. It's, you know, with.
And that's your choice. You just press it. And that's
and just
really
dig
cool.
in. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah. And so that also speaks to how it, when we originally got it, it was 8 in and 2 out, because that's how you'd have it, like all the vocal mics and whatnot, and then you'd sum it out. So we got it modded so that now it's 8 in and 8 out.
Oh, okay,
which is great.
And then what do you do with the 2 now that it's?
With the 2, I mean, I've used it as a mixing summing board too. Like I'll bounce stuff down to 2 tracks.
So you can still send it back out the 2 with
Correct.
your mod?
Oh, yeah. So we still have the 2 main outs, and then there's also the auxiliary outs and the 8 additional outs.
Do you use it for any like mobile recording at all, or?
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't take it anywhere.
Well, I guess that's smart. That's really, really cool. So hopping down here, you have the BAE, and these are what, the 1073s?
Yeah, there's a 6 1073s and 2 1084s.
Oh, okay, cool. And you don't see these too often in this this custom. What is this, like an 800 series? You know what that is called?
Not off my hand.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, that's a gorgeous rack. That's like a very it's expensive collection right there.
It is, for sure. My go-tos, you know, with anything, definitely with vocals, I find it really treats like the 700 area really well, and the 220.
How does a strip here compare to a strip here?
I'd say the EQs, like going back to that. I mean, the sound of them, this one has, I guess, more like classic Neve sound that you'd get, and what you would expect out of like a Neve strip.
Right.
And this one, though a lot of the same components as an actual 1073 and whatnot, has its sound of its own.
Okay. But the pre's, would the pre's sound similar?
Similar being Neves. Yeah, definitely. Like it's not going to sound like an API, and it's not going to sound like a Grey River, and etc.
Yeah, well, you really have some Neve coverage here, right? So you have 8 of these, you have 8 here.
Yeah.
2 here, in a way.
Yeah, and then the 4 APIs.
The output here, is this, so these are all output assigned to this?
Correct.
It's just basically your trim.
Yeah, so that's post, which is great.
Very cool.
Where often if I'm recording like a heavier band or just anything where I want to like induce a lot of the saturation and distortion from this, and like gain that right up, and then turn this down post preamp so that it's you can like control it going into Pro Tools.
Exactly.
And it sounds so good.
So that like and then can you bypass the EQ? Is that EQ in, or what's
correct.
that?
Yeah, I guess by not pressing it, you'd be bypassing the EQ.
And you can be hearing then what it's doing without it changing the volume too much, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, those are beautiful, man.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool.
Yeah, I can't get it.
We were talking a little bit about BAE, just how we see them a little bit more frequently than Neves, to be honest.
Yeah, I've been seeing them a lot more frequently too.
It's pretty cool. I have one. I have their single channel mic pre with no filter, no EQ.
Yeah, cool.
And it's great. It's just something I love having in my collection.
Yeah, and with those, you don't even have to EQ right away. Like it stays very true to the sound that you're getting like from whatever mic you have.
That's very true.
Cool. It's like it's just a bonus that you have so many options, and that the EQs alone are just
Right.
Very like silky warm.
Okay, so we got APIs here, which we've seen quite a bit of those, the 550s.
Yep.
And then what are these two 500 series?
So these are standard audio levelers.
Okay.
And they're essentially like distortion inducing little like 500 series boxes there.
Are they pre's?
They are not necessarily a pre, it's just distortion really.
It's like a boost or
and
something.
you can level out as well. So it kind of acts as like a super hard limiter too.
What would you use that for?
I've used it a lot for backbusting. Like I'll throw a kick through it, but if you gain it up really high with the saturation, like the input into it, you tend to lose or like bottom out some of the low end.
Okay.
So by having it backbust, you can like EQ and affect the affected signal, like just to keep like the crunch of it going in.
Yeah.
So I've done that a lot. And
do you go direct into it, or do you go to a pre first and then in there? Like if it's a kick drum?
Like I would go through a pre and then go into it.
Okay.
And that way I just have like a little bit more level to boost into the actual leveler.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. What is this unit here? This looks like some sort of bus compressor.
Yeah, so it's an Allen Smart. It is like a stereo bus compressor modeled after the SSLs.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, it's great.
Allen Smart?
Correct.
Is that a local guy or is that?
Not local, from the States, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But
cool.
Yeah, could be corrected.
Can you use them individually?
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's cool.
And then the stereo button here if you want this to control both sides, which is great. For example, like drum overheads or for a mix if you want it.
Yeah, I was gonna say when it comes to bus compressors, I see the Vintech, but would this hang out on your bus most of the time?
It does.
Yeah?
Yeah, specifically because I do have that stereo option.
Right.
And this, to jump to the Fatso, I've used that as a bus compressor as well.
Okay.
Because even on mixes and whatnot, because the tranny function is really cool, because it enhances the sub frequency harmonics, which is really just great to have for kick drums and whatnot or bass. It makes anything down there more audible on little Ableton speakers and whatnot.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah, which is cool.
Which is really what you got to do these days. You got to think about how it sounds through
definitely.
crappy car speakers and earbuds and stuff.
Yeah.
Very cool. I'm so interested in this. I want to skip the Distressors because we have talked about them a lot. But Fatso, we've seen them a few times, and I'm kind of just interested. So it's a stereo. There's two inputs. You can use them individually.
Yep.
But if it were on your mix bus, would that be one of your first things before your SSL or after? Or never together?
I have used it after. So I've kind of used this as a general level out mix bus compressor, and then run into this because it has the warmth function, which can act as a de-esser, but more really high frequencies.
Oh,
so it
okay.
tames that, which is really nice.
Okay.
And then again, commenting on the low end, the tranny, which will do some really cool stuff down there.
Now, and it is a compressor?
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah.
It's a compressor with some saturation type of things?
Yeah, if you really drive it, you can for sure.
Interesting.
And here it has tracking compression, which is a general compressor, and then spank is more of a limiter, where to have a much higher ratio and just slam it down.
And do you do, how much gain reduction are you doing if you're using it on your final mix?
Final mix, probably -1 to 3. I wouldn't really go much more than that.
Yeah.
But if I have it, I've used it on drum overheads a lot. Again, speaking with that warmth function to tame cymbals. And then I love to just drive it.
I got to rent one. I really got to try one.
Yeah,
I've seen
100%.
one. I remember seeing one that was at Boxcar in Hamilton, and they had one that was modded by, it's a brown faceplate.
Oh, yeah.
Kush.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, the guy was like, I would buy 4 of them if I could.
Yeah.
So I haven't tried them.
I haven't tried the brown ones to compare, but I love this one. I mean, I would love to own one just as myself to have 2 of them.
Some 1176s. Stop me if I'm skipping over anything cool.
Yeah, I mean.
161s, those look pretty old.
Yep, they sound great. Awesome for snares and.
Okay, cool. Yeah. This actually, it's funny, the CL1B Vintech, I don't think we've seen one on our tours. Stop me if I'm wrong, but what do you use that for?
I use it a lot for vocals. You can really drive them, and it's compressing a lot, but you don't hear a lot of the classic pumping or pushing or anything that you would driving other compressors.
Okay. Do you know what kind of compressor it would be technically, or?
Tube.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And you can really drive it, and you don't hear a lot of what you'd expect to hear, and it's very transparent, and it's very like warm sounding. I've used it on room mics before too, kind of like for the same function to drive it and get that from it.
Okay, cool. What a beast.
Yeah, and it's super fast too, like really fast.
Really?
Yeah. Nice.
I'm actually, now that I think about it, I don't think we've seen them. And then, so this is
This is a Chandler germanium preamp.
Okay.
So you can have it either the mic signal in from the back or the DI from the front here.
Okay.
And it's for sure my go-to bass.
Oh, really? What's the feedback mean?
I've been using it as input and output essentially, where if you really gain it in, then you get a lot of, like speaking, using it for bass as a DI, you get a lot of the sustain because it's hitting it harder.
Right.
So it's kind of like self-compressing inside.
Right.
And then here you can kind of tame the output of it.
Okay.
Whereas the opposite, if I want more of a bouncy signal where it's not as kind of like flat, so to speak, then have this down and then.
So I've heard that a couple times before. This is your go-to. So this is your main thing for bass.
I like to. I'll at least start with this, hear how it sounds, try different basses and whatnot.
And DI into here, or would your bass mic go into here?
I would do DI into there.
Okay.
I'll usually go into the JD7, split it out into here, and then the other signal to the bass amp. And it's cool. Like I'd also jump to this because it has this thick button, which like really warms up and enhances the bottom frequencies too, which is great for bass.
Yeah.
You know, nice like thumpy downbeats and whatnot.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool.
We've seen one of these before. These are like kind of an LA2A style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're getting pretty popular. Like I know UA models one too, which is neat.
Right.
It's nice. Like the LA2A, you don't necessarily have control over the attack and release as easily as you do with this.
Okay.
It's nice. Like I find myself keeping it in the middle here, which is nor fast or slow, kind of like the medium setting, and it sounds really nice.
That's really cool.
Yeah, with vocals.
Now I know Vintech quite well, and they make great stuff. It's kind of like BIE, where like nobody's really complaining about when comparing them to Neve. But I've never seen this before.
Yeah, it sounds really great. I mean, it's a Vintech modeling after the 33609, which everyone knows, like the like stereo compressor.
Yeah, I just didn't know they made one. What's the Vintech custom shop mean?
I don't know why custom shop is there.
Wonder if that was like a limited edition or something. I got to Google that because I don't.
Yeah,
I didn't know that existed.
Yeah, we had for a while the X73, which is the Vintech and has 4 preamps modeling the 1073.
Right.
And that was really nice.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, my buddy has. I think it's called the 676.
Okay.
Is that what it is, or? It's like 6 pre's and then there's EQ shelves on them.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called now actually, and then they do the same. They have like a 2-channel one. Maybe it's 273 and 673. Okay. 473.
The 473 is the 4 preamp.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's too many numbers right now.
Yeah, there's lots of gear, lots of numbers.
So do you guys use this a lot?
Yep. Yeah. Anything, a lot of like drum rooms.
Okay.
I find myself gravitating towards that. And if I want any kind of clean signal for like the drum overheads or whatnot, I find it's really great to gravitate towards that.
Can you use them individually?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. You have the stereo link here.
Is there any EQ in it or any filtering at all?
No, it's just the compressor side here and then the limiter side here. And you can use both or just one or the other.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
which cool.
is really handy.
That sounds like a lot of fun. These guys, I feel like I've seen something like this maybe at Union. Can you tell me about this?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's almost like a channel strip in its own, minus the fact that it has no preamp. So you go into it so you can use the limiter here or the compressor.
Yeah.
And then you can also use it as an EQ. But what's really cool is they've added this sidechain function, so you can use the EQ that goes into the compressor. Like dictates when it's going to react, which is really nice for like de-essing vocals or especially.
I mean, it's even cool that you can just pick the pre or post.
Yeah, totally.
So cool.
Yeah, and it's really cool if you drive it on like a drum room mic. You get that like
nice
kind of sound from it.
Audio Design Recording, is that the company?
Yes.
The colors look familiar from something I've seen, but I've never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Transient designer, that's always really cool to have.
Yep. Super handy.
And then you have an LA2A down there. That's like my dream piece. I want to save. Is that like one of the more, that's the newer models, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really great. Kind of very similar to the Tube Tech in the sense that it's very transparent when you go into it, and yeah, you can get some nice like drive from it.
It's so funny. I was talking about this with Ian at Union about how for pieces like this and like this, like 90% of my experience is with the plugin.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And so it's so absurd, and I'm sure the people at home aren't going to make fun of me for that because it's true for them too. But you know, like I'm every day I turn this knob. It just so happens to be on my screen.
Well, it's the same with the 1176s. Like when a lot of people come in, and I can tell they're more of a like producer, like mixer within their plugins and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then like work with them, be like, hey, like what settings do you want? Like to start with, do you have any go-tos?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, set it, the input to 30, output to 18, and then like fast attack, slow release, whatnot. And I know I'm like, yeah, that's the default settings in the plugin. So like that's just what they start with. Like,
are there times where people come in and use that, and all of a sudden they realize how differently it behaves than the plugin?
Not necessarily. I mean, the plugins are getting very accurate to how they sound like as real pieces of gear. But I mean, of course, they definitely have their own characteristics, being that it's not a computer algorithm doing the same thing each time kind of thing.
Right. Yeah.
But I mean, that is a huge appeal of having all this gear, is that it indeed is not a plugins, and all those little nuances add up over time to create like a warm analog kind of sound.
Good point. That is a great point. This would be probably my dream piece, the Teletronic site.
Yeah, that's great.
It's just so cool.
Yeah.
I want to hop up here real quick before we go, because I'm so intrigued by this, and we'll get there. Here's a Korg. I think we've seen a couple of these.
Yeah.
Why is this 20. in here?
This is in here because it looks really nice on top of the gear. It's nice and flat.
I agree. Yeah.
I mean,
good enough reason for me.
We use it a lot. It's like it has such a nice crunch to it as like a lead synth.
Okay.
It's monophonic as well. But you can also go down to like the sub, and it almost acts like a sub synthesizer.
Nice, yeah.
And it's so crazy.
Well, in the control room too, I find that like when you're mixing, I've been using my Moog a lot too. When you're mixing a kind of a minimal song, you need something to kind of keep that driving note throughout the whole song.
Yeah,
and
totally.
That's almost inaudible, but you just feel it when you turn it off.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of nice to say like, we need to fill out this mix a little bit with like a mortar, and that's what it's here for.
I actually use the Juno 60 for that a lot. Like a really nice like airy pad in the chorus to just like fill out space that needs to be.
And nobody hears it, but if you mute it,
all of a sudden you notice, or like that's the change between the chorus and then verse 2.
Yeah.
Like it feels empty, but it could just be that being taken out.
So smart. Chorus echo. This looks like it's in great shape.
It is, yeah. We've had it for a while. It's existed as as a 5.1 for quite a while, and recently the motor went down, which was unfortunate, but we got it fixed right away. Jay Lamac did a great job, and so now like also did a full clean inside, so it's in peak condition. Like,
do you use it in mixing?
I do actually, a lot with reverbs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay. Like I'll use that almost exclusively like as the reverb, either for the song or just like for a vocal or whatnot.
Oh, okay. And just as a send in Pro Tools kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly. And lots of tracking. The chorus is cool. The echo, obviously sounds really good.
So jealous.
Yeah.
And what about this little guy? I have seen these come every now and then for about $50.
Yeah.
Online, sometimes at yard sales, and the next time I'm going to buy them before they're worth like $500.
Yeah, you should, for sure.
Yeah.
I think Alex was in Winnipeg, saw it on Kijiji for a good price. It was like around 50 or so.
Yeah.
Picked it up right away, and I'm so glad he did, because I think what they were built for, it's a microphone mixer. So you'd have, let's say you're like a gymnasium, play or whatnot. You have 4 mics go in, and then you have 1 mic output, and that's kind of what it was for.
So
like
only
nothing
1
more.
mono output. 4 mono ins?
Correct. Okay. 4 mono in, 1 output. And but little did they know when they were making it is that when you drive the input, the distortion sounds really good.
Really?
So that's it's kind of like, to me anyways, this little distortion box where you can just like blast vocals.
Did you have
through.
this modded, or was it always XLR at the back?
We didn't have it modded. That's how we bought it. So I can't speak to how they're originally made.
I mean, those look really.
Yeah.
That can't be original. Do you think?
Maybe. I haven't really seen the back.
It fits within the painted lines, so it probably is.
I get the sense that it might be, because you have the switches.
What's so crazy is I wonder what year this is from. Shure Brothers Incorporated. So this is pretty old. Like this could be 60s, maybe 70s.
Yeah.
But anyway, what's interesting is that if you worked at a high school right now and somebody said, go to the music store and buy a 4-channel mixer for our assemblies, you would come out with some digital piece of crap or like plastic.
Yeah.
You know?
It's
so crazy how they built stuff back then.
It is, yeah. And especially that this one has like that little hidden feature, which is cool.
In and out. So what's the in and out? What's that mean?
These are the filters.
Filters.
So yeah, you can just
they're
like
all
a
just
local
missing their
filter.
knobs?
No, they're just, it's kind of hard to see in the light, I guess, but it has a little indent where you can push it.
So then, okay, how do you use this?
You would go mic in, and then it comes right out. I've kind of toyed around with how I want to send it. Like if I want more signal coming in, I'll go line in and just like totally blast it right in, and then like just a hotter signal in general.
Yeah.
And then right out into
Will you
whatever
do any
I
summing?
want.
Will you say take like 2 overheads or?
You definitely can.
Well, I guess that would come out as mono, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I mean, I've never really used it to some specifically.
You've never used
but
more than one channel?
I don't think so. Yeah, it's just a distortion box for.
It'd be fun to put synths through it too, just to give it that more of a grit.
Yeah, totally.
All right, I got to keep a. Oh, look, it's on. Look at that. I got to keep a look for one of those. That's great.
Yep.
Well, this is a great place, man. Thanks so much for having us here. I really
of course.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by.
There's like, I know we're missing stuff. There's some great synths out in the hall. Jay will get.
Talk forever.
Yeah, exactly. Our monitors, and Jay will get some great footage of everything. But this is a great place, dream house, and thanks so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, thank you for coming by.
Thanks, Jay.